Good day everyone. So today our group is going to present about the national income.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nuraliyah Mazlan and I will present on the definition of national income. So, what is national income? National income can be defined as flow of goods and services in a nation over a period of time, usually for a year. Other than that, national income can also be defined as total payments received by the factors of production through the production of goods and services in a country in a year, which we simply can say that national income is actually a net result of all economic activities of any country during a period of 1 year and is valued in terms of money. So what I have explained earlier is actually the modern definition of national income. And there are traditional definitions of national income. One of the traditional definitions of national income is from Simon Kuznets, who was American economist and statistician. He said that national income is the net output of commodities and services flowing during the year from the country's productive system in the hands of the ultimate consumers. The other traditional definition of national income is from Alfred Marshall, who was top English economist, and he said that national income is the labor and capital of a country acting on its natural resources, produce annually a certain net aggregate of commodities, materials and immaterial, including services of all kinds. This is the true net annual income or revenue of the country or national dividend. However, the definition stated by Marshall is being criticized because he included a varied category of goods and services, which then lead to the chance of double counting, and national income cannot be estimated correctly. For example, a product that runs in the supply from the producer to distributor to wholesaler to retailer and then to the ultimate consumer. If on every movement commodity is taken into consideration, then the value of national income will increase.
So I'll be explaining the differences between GDP and GNP. So before I start, GDP is the gross domestic product, whereas GNP is the gross national product. So there are a key number of differences between these two. Firstly, GDP is the total market value of goods and services produced within a country in a given period of time, whereas GNP is the total market value of goods and services produced by the residents of a country in a given period of time. So what's the differences between these two statements? So I can say that GDP focuses on output that is produced inside the country. What I mean to say is anything that is produced inside that country or obtained inside that country is considered as the GDP, whereas GNP it says residents of a country. So even though those residents or nationals are living outside, the income that they earn or the goods and services that they produce are then included in the GNP. It can happen inside and outside the country, with the exception that you are a resident or a national of that country, then you're included in the GNP. So moving on to the second difference is, of course, GDP excludes the goods and services obtained by nationals working overseas. As I've stated before, it only focuses on outputs and goods and services that are obtained or produced inside that country. Nationals or residents that are working overseas, even though they are earning income, they are not included in the GDP because of the word domestic. It focuses only inside the country. So when we look at a GNP, GNP includes all income obtained by nationals regardless of their location. For example, if you live in the UK, if you live in Korea, you earn income, then you are included in the GNP. Thirdly, the other difference is that GDP will only include output that happens domestically. That's what I've stated before. It needs to be it needs to happen domestically, then it can be GDP. Whereas in GNP, it does not rely on domestic output only. It can involve nationals working outside or overseas. That's the differences between both of them.
My name is Sofiea and today I will be explaining 3 of 5 uses of national income statistic. So the first one of 5 uses of national income statistic is national income statistic will help us compare the standard of living of people in different countries to the people living in the same country at different time. For example, that I can give is USA and also UK that have a higher national income will have a higher standard of living, while countries that have a low national income will have lower standard of living, such as Vietnam and also Cambodia. Other than that, national income statistics will be used for the government to formulate in short-term and long-term economic planning. The government can forecast our future development based on current economic performance using national income statistic, a country cannot possibly frame a plan without having a prior knowledge of the trends in the national economy. For example, like in Malaysia, national income number are also used by the government to formulate the country's for the 5-year strategy. So the third one is national income statistics are an important tool in macroeconomic policy and analysis. National income estimates are the most accurate indicator of an economic aggregate admitting, and also future economic policies of development of a nation can be formulated with this national income estimates. It is through such estimate that we know the aggregate yield of the economy and lead on future economic policy for development.
Okay, I will continue on the uses of national income statistic. So, the fourth uses of national income statistic is national income statistic can be used to identify the most important sector that contributes to the country's economy. In Malaysia, there are 3 sectors that contribute to the gross domestic product, which are first, the primary sector, which consists of mining, agriculture, fishing and forestry. The second sector is the secondary sector, which consists of manufacturing and construction. And the last sector is the tertiary sector, which consists of services such as insurance, transport, gas and water, electricity, finance, government services, and other services. For example, in 2019, the share of industry contributed approximately 37.42% and the services sector contributed about 54.17% in Malaysia's GDP. Thus, by having national income statistics, Malaysia could identify which sector has a major contribution to the country's GDP and will focus more on that sector to ensure the economy is doing well. Lastly, national income statistics can be used to measure the economy's performance over time, whether it is stagnant, improving or declining. But how to measure the economy just from national income? Economy's performance can be measured by comparing the national income of one time period to that of another. For example, in 2020, all of Malaysia's economic sectors except for the manufacturing sector were declining because of COVID-19 health crisis. In order to avoid a bad economy in our country, the recorded economy's performance from national income statistics could keep the government aware and then start to initiate something to ensure that Malaysia's economy is in a well-being state. Moving on to the next presenter.
Right, so now me and Ammar is going to explain the 5 problems in calculating national income. So the first problem encountered in calculating national income is basically false information. So what's a false information? When people will ask about their income, usually they will not be honest and they will likely to lie about their real income. This is because they want to avoid from paying higher taxes to the government. As we know in Malaysia, we apply that higher income leads to higher taxes imposed upon them. So the calculation of the national income will be affected if we as citizens are not be honest with ourselves about our real income, and it's going to be not accurate as it has to be. So secondly, it is the multi-occupations also contributed to the problems in calculating national income. So like I said before, nowadays people are involved and engaged in several economic activities which actually they do not include in calculating national income. So for instance, like a real simple example, I would say that someone who works from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. so she or he earns a fixed income from doing that job, but then at night she or he will sell like char kway teow or burger at night store as a part-time job. But the thing is, they only include the income from the full-time job, while the income from selling the char kway teow as the part-time job is not calculated in the national income. Alright, so thirdly, lack of expertise in calculating national income. So usually this problem occurs in undeveloped countries such as like Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Cambodia, or maybe like Central African Republic. So this country, they lacks of researchers, programmers, analysis to calculate the national income accurately. So it is very important for a country to have these professionals, like I mentioned before, as the data that we will receive will likely with minimum errors. So with the help of these professionals, we can receive the data from rural areas or undiscovered district of a country.
Moving on to the next point, which is the lack of literacy. The lack of literacy serves also as a major problem in calculating the national income. So what I mean to say is literacy in terms of economic purposes is that people can keep records and also the necessary calculations to be given to the government for the necessary calculation of the national income. But the problem here is now, in third world countries especially, people tend to focus more on self-consumption activities whereby the rate of production through the keeping of records and also calculations are not done well. Thus, the government will not be able to receive the best out of those records and also calculations in order to calculate the national income. So that will be a problem for the government because they are unable to calculate the rate of production focusing on these people. Moving on to the next point, which is the sophisticated machinery. We all know that in these modern times, we need the best out of the machinery. We need sophisticated machinery such as the best out of computers, programs such as IDMs, or anything else that can help in calculating the national income. But the problem here is now again, in some countries they don't have this. They still stick with the old machinery. They don't have the best out of the sophisticated machinery. So then they will have a problem in calculating national income. So they won't be able to calculate the most accurate at rate of production. They won't be able to receive the accurate data, and that will then give them inaccurate or inefficient calculations of the national income. So that is also a problem that must be solved by these countries in order to have a better level of national income.
Next, per capita income. So per capita income refers to average income per head of population. It is used as an index of change in the standard of living of a country. Per capita income helps determine the average per person income to evaluate the standard of living for a population. It can be calculated by using this formula, which is per capita income equal to national income divided by the total population.
Alright, so right now I'm going to explain what's the growth rate, right? So growth rate can be defined as the percentage change in quality of goods and also services produced at a specific period of time. So meaning to say the word change and also a specific period of time, basically you can calculate or you can count the growth rate from 1 year to another year. For example, you want to calculate the growth rate 2016 and also 2017. So growth rate is used to compare the health of a nation's economy over time. So as you guys can see, the formula at your right side is the growth rate, which is G. So real GNP this year minus real GNP last year. So you divide in real GNP last year and then you multiply with 100%. So this formula also can be used to calculate real GDP based on real income. So that's all for our group project video. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.